Somewhere out there is someone taking home the same paycheck you are. Same city. Same zero in the same account the year you both turned 29. One of you stops working 13 years before the other, and nothing in your bank app will ever tell you which of you it is. Her name is Jamie. 3 years in, she got a raise, moved somewhere the dishwasher worked, financed a car that still smelled new, and stopped checking the grocery total, which is what you'd do. It's what I'd have done. His name is Jade. Jade never got a raise, not once in 30 years. He kept a paid-off sedan with a cracked cup holder, and he finished 13 years ahead of her. There's a third one, Grace, who did everything Jade did and still came in 8 years late. You are already one of these three. You just can't see which, because the number that decides it isn't one anyone shows you. This isn't a video about retiring early, it's about who gets to decide when you stop working. My name is Nick, and I've spent an unreasonable share of my life staring at spreadsheets that explain why hardworking people stay stuck. If you've ever gotten a raise and somehow felt broker 6 months later, hit subscribe, because today we're breaking down the 4 numbers that actually decide when you get to stop. 4 numbers. 3 of them you've heard of and never tracked. The 4th one you've probably never seen written down at all. And one of the 4 shows up twice, on both sides of the equation, which is the entire reason this video exists. And keep all 3 of them with you as we go, because each one is going to fail a different number. Jamie fails the 2nd, Grace fails the 3rd. Jade doesn't fail any of them, which sounds impressive until you find out he never earned more than the person he beat. Also, hold on to Jamie specifically. In year 31, she's going to get a phone call, and what happens to her that afternoon depends completely on a number she never once checked. Number 1 is your savings rate, not how much you save. What percentage of your take-home pay you keep. Can you answer that right now off the top of your head? Not roughly. Actually, most people can't, and it's not a discipline problem. Nothing in your life reports it to you. Your bank app shows you a balance, your pay stub shows you gross, net, and a column of deductions you stopped reading in your 20s. Your brokerage shows you a green number and a red number. Not one of those screens shows you the percentage, so the one metric that governs the rest of your working life is the only one you'd have to go build by hand. Because you can probably recite your credit score to the exact digit, and that's a number a company invented to decide how much interest to charge you. Almost nobody knows the one that decides when they're allowed to stop working. We memorize the one the bank cares about. Nationally, we're not doing well. Americans are currently saving under 3% of what they bring home. The long-run average is closer to 8.5%, so we're running at about a third of normal, which is a rate that would get you thrown out of a piggy bank. Here's why your percentage matters more than your salary. Save 10% of your take-home, and you're about 50 years from financial independence. Save 20%, it's 37. Save half, it's under 20. Notice what's missing from that list. Dollar signs. There's no income in that math anywhere. You and somebody earning 4 times what you earn, saving the same percentage, cross the line on the same day. Because saving more does 2 jobs at once. It grows your pile and it shrinks your target. Now let me walk that back, because income doesn't matter is true, and it's also the most dangerous sentence in this video. The math is income blind. Your options are not. If you're in the bottom 5th of American earners, there is no compressible spending in your budget, and telling you the math is income blind is like telling you the marathon is open to everybody. Technically true, not the point. But there's a second row in that same table that cuts the other direction, and almost nobody mentions it. Move your savings rate up a single point from 5% to 6%, and you buy back nearly 4 years of your life. Move from 65 to 66, and you buy about 4 months. So the further behind you are, the more you get paid to move. That is the only place in the entire American economy where that's true, and nobody advertises it. Jade never ran any of this, he just quietly refused to let his life get more expensive. Jamie started where he did, and then she didn't, and that brings us to your second number. Number 2 is your annual spending. This is the one that shows up twice. Watch what actually happened to Jamie. The raise arrives, her spending rises to meet it, which is the most normal thing a human being can do. Her savings rate drops, And here's the part nobody warned her about. Her finish line moved. Because your target was never a dollar amount somebody handed you. It's roughly 25 times whatever your life costs. Make your life cost more. And the target walks away from you while you're still running at it. Jamie went from 37 years to 40. She got a raise, and it made her 3 years poorer. Her balance climbed every single month for 3 decades, so every year the news looked good, and the whole time the line was moving faster than she was. Now, here's the comparison that should bother you. If she'd taken that identical raise and banked every cent of it, she'd have finished 9 years early. Genuinely great outcome. Jade got no raise ever and cut $700 a month. He finished 10 years early. Cutting $700 a month beat a raise she saved perfectly. Grace, by the way, made the exact same cut in the exact same year, and I want you to remember that. Because it matters later in a way you will not see coming. And nobody had to approve it. No performance review, no negotiation, no manager deciding your worth in a conference room in March. Here's the mechanism, and I want you to run it against your own life while I say it. Every dollar of permanent monthly spending needs about $300 of capital behind it to run forever. So your streaming bundle isn't $15 a month. It's $4,500 of capital permanently. Anything costing you $100 a month is $30,000. The average new car payment is over $200,000. Your streaming bundle has a mortgage, which is how you know personal finance advice has been auditing the wrong half of your budget for 30 years. Housing and transportation together take about half of every dollar the average American household spends. Entertainment takes under 5%. Guess which one you get lectured about. And if you're planning to stop before 65, your spending number just picked up a second job, and this one is brutal. The Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies expired at the end of 2025. The subsidy cliff came back. Go $1 over the income line and you lose every dollar of premium assistance. Not a reduced amount, all of it. Kaiser ran the numbers. A 60-year-old sitting just under that line pays around $500 a month for coverage. The same person $2,000 over it pays more than $1,200. $2,000 of extra income costs you $9,000. Read that again, because it's genuinely absurd. There is a point in the American healthcare system where earning more money makes you poorer, and it is not a loophole or a glitch. It is written down, somebody drafted it, somebody voted on it, and now it sits there waiting for anyone who retires before 65 and has the nerve to have a good year. So what's your income once you've stopped working? Your withdrawals, and what sets your withdrawals? Your spending. Which means before 65, number 2 doesn't just set your savings rate and your target, it sets your health insurance premium. Same number. Third job, which brings in Grace, because number 3 is the one that got her. Grace took home exactly what Jade did. She made the same $700 cut in the same year, same savings rate, same discipline, same 27 years of never missing a deposit. If you put their 2 budgets side by side, you could not tell them apart. She finished 8 years after him. Number 3 is your real return. What's actually left after inflation, fees, taxes, and panic. It's the one number on this list you don't control, which is exactly why it eats people alive. Grace paid a 1% advisory fee. That's it. That's the headline. 1% sounds like a rounding error, and it is the single most expensive sentence in her financial life. 1% is the number the industry chose precisely because it doesn't sound like a number. Nobody would sign a contract that said I'd like to hand over roughly a quarter of everything I'm about to earn. They'd sign one that says 1%, and those 2 sentences describe the same afternoon. She was also sitting in funds charging around 0.4% when the equivalent index fund charges close to nothing. If you have never once opened your own accounts and looked up that number, and most people never have, this is the part of the video to pause. And twice, in years that felt genuinely frightening, she moved to cash and came back late. None of that felt like a decision at the time. That's the whole point. Nobody wakes up on a Tuesday and chooses to lose a decade. You just move some money somewhere safe for a few months, which is the most reasonable sounding sentence in personal finance and one of the most expensive. Here's what it did to her. In year 5, she's behind Jade by $6,000. Nothing, you would not even notice it on a statement. By year 15, it's $85,000. By year 25, she's behind by more than $300,000, which is a house. Same savings rate, same discipline, same years of her life. 8 of them gone to a number nobody ever showed her. And here's the overlap that should make you uncomfortable. Jammy's third number was fine. She was in a decent target date fund, she never panicked, she never touched it. Her returns were healthy and her spending ate her anyway. Grace's spending was flawless and her returns ate her instead. You do not get to pick which one comes for you. And I have to be honest with you here in a way most people covering this aren't. Researchers actively disagree about how much of that damage is really panic selling. One recent paper puts the cost of bad timing at roughly a tenth of the figure everybody quotes. So take that piece with salt. What nobody disputes is the fees and the taxes, and those alone are enough to do this to you. One more thing before you assume a friendly return. American stocks are currently priced at more than double their long-run historical valuation. That doesn't predict a crash. Historically, it has predicted a weaker decade afterward. So if your plan quietly assumes the last 10 years just happen again, that isn't a forecast. That's a hope wearing a forecast's clothes. Which brings us to number 4, and this is the one almost nobody tracks. Your multiple. Your net worth divided by your annual spending. $500,000 means nothing on its own. $500,000 against $40,000 of spending is 12.5 times, and you're halfway home. $500,000 against 100 and 10,000 of spending is 4.5. Same balance, completely different life. Your net worth is a number, your multiple is a countdown, and here's the elegant part. Number 4 is number 2 wearing a different hat. Your spending is the denominator. Cut it, and your multiple jumps without a single dollar getting added. This is exactly the number Jamie never looked at. She watched her balance, which went up every year, so every year the news was good. Her multiple barely moved. Those are 2 completely different stories about the same woman, and only one of them was true. So do this with me right now before I go any further. Whatever is sitting in your investment accounts, divide it by what a year of your life costs. Not what you earn, what you spend. That's your multiple. Hold on to it, because we're coming back to it. Now, the famous target is 25 times, which comes from the 4% rule. And I should tell you, the 4% rule has had a rough few decades. The man who invented it has since raised his own number. Morningstar's version has bounced around depending on which year you ask. It's less a rule and more a mood. But here's the part that matters for you specifically, and almost everyone covering this topic skips it. Every one of those numbers assumes a 30-year retirement. You clicked on a video about retiring decades early. If you stop at 45, you're not planning 30 years, you're planning 50. And the research says stretching your horizon that far drops your safe withdrawal rate to somewhere around 3.5%, which quietly turns 25 times into about 29 times. That's roughly 3 more years of work, and it's the honest price of the thing this title promised you. I'd rather you hear it from me now than find it out at 60. And notice what that does to Grace. She was already 8 years late because of her third number. Push her target from 25 times to 29, and she's not retiring early at all anymore. She's just retiring. The 2 numbers stack, and nobody tells you they stack. There's one more wall, and it's the one that surprises people right at the finish line. You hit your number. Congratulations, now try to spend it. Most of your money is sitting in a 401k or an IRA, and before 59.5, touching it costs you 10% off the top. You've got 3 doors. The rule of 55 lets you tap the plan from the employer you just left. But only that one plan, and it evaporates the second you roll it into an IRA. Door 2 lets you take fixed, equal payments at any age. But you're locked in for years, and if you break the schedule, the IRS retroactively penalizes every payment you already took. So yes, you can get at it early, you just sign a contract with no exit and a 17-year term, which is, and I want to be precise about this, a worse commitment than most marriages and considerably harder to leave. Door 3 is the Roth conversion ladder. You convert a slice each year and it unlocks 5 years later. It's the flexible one. But conversions count as income, and income is exactly what determines that health insurance cliff. So there's number 2 again. Third appearance. It's in your tax return now. All right, let me give you the good news because there is some, and it's genuinely surprising. At some point, your portfolio's annual growth quietly exceeds what you're putting in. That's your crossover point. Put in 1,000 a month at a normal return and you cross over around year 12. Here's the strange part. Put in 1,500 a month instead, year 12. 2,000, year 12. Your crossover date doesn't depend on how much you save. It depends on your return and whether you kept going, which means you and somebody saving 10 times what you save get the same news on the same day. Wildly different balances, identical date. That's the one place in this entire video where the amount stops mattering. It's the moment the thing starts carrying you instead of you carrying it, and if you've been at this a while, you may already be past it without having noticed. Jade crossed over in year 12. So did Jamie on a smaller pile. Your engine and hers start on the same schedule. The only question is whether you keep feeding yours. Which brings us back to Jamie and the phone call. Year 31. She's 60 years old. Her company reorganizes. It isn't personal, it's a slide in a deck somebody built on a Thursday. 31 years of a career ends in an 11-minute meeting, and she carries a box with a dead desk plant in it out to a car she is still making payments on. Her multiple was about 11. She needed 25. And I want to be careful here, because the reflex is to say she made bad choices. She didn't. She got raises and she enjoyed them, which is what raises are for. Nobody ever told her the finish line moves. Nobody has told you either. And you've been getting the same advice she got from the same people in the same reassuring tone. Now here's the data that should change how you look at the rest of your own career. Workers say they expect to retire at 65. Retirees actually retired at 62, and nearly half of them left earlier than they had planned. Of that group, 4 in 10 left because of a health problem or a disability. Another third left because of restructuring, downsizing, or a business closing. And that isn't one bad year. It has been running like that every year since the late 90s, which means it isn't a risk you're facing, it's closer to a coin flip you've already been entered into. So sit with that for a second. Roughly half of American early retirements are not a choice. They're a body that gave out or a company that reorganized. Almost nobody in that group was chasing a beach in Portugal, which means these 4 numbers were never really about escaping at 40. They're about whether the day somebody else makes that decision for you is a transition or a catastrophe. So which one would it be for you if that call came this Thursday? That's the actual question here. Not when you want to retire. What happens to you if you have to? Jade would have been fine. Grace would have been fine, 8 years late, but fine. Jamie was doing everything the culture told her to do, and she was 11 times in when she needed 25. Oh, and if you want to go deeper on this, I opened a school community where we break these numbers down with actual spreadsheets, and people post their own multiples and argue about withdrawal rates. Costs nothing, links in the description. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice. It's arithmetic and public data, and every projection in here assumes a modest real return, which is an assumption, not a promise. So here's what I want you walking away with. You worked out your multiple a few minutes ago. That number is how many years of your own life you currently own, not how much money you have, how much time. Jade owned 22 years by the time Jamie owned 10, and he never once out-earned her. She had more money, he had more life. Whatever your number is, it's either going up or it isn't, and it does not care even slightly how your year is going. Go find out which one you're on. And come tell me in our school community when it moves.